Welcome, my friend, to Still Point 1210, a midweek pause for peace, presence, and renewal. Wherever you are today, whatever kind of day you are having, I invite you to arrive gently. You do not have to force calm. You do not have to have everything figured out. You do not even have to feel spiritual in this movement. You only have to pause. Just before we begin, I would like to invite you to take a moment to subscribe to this channel on YouTube, follow on Facebook, and share this still point moment with someone who may need just a few minutes of peace today. Sometimes a simple pause shared at the right moment can become a blessing in someone else's day. As we begin, this is a gentle practice meant to support awareness and calm. It is not intended to replace medical or mental health care. Now let's take a breath together and come back to the still point within. Still point breathing is not just a pause from life, it's a practice of coming back to yourself, calming the alarm system, receiving a steadier rhythm, and returning to the world with a new pathway being strengthened. So let's begin. Place one hand gently over your heart and let this be an anchor, a simple signal to your body that you are here. Relax your jaw. Let your shoulders soften. Let your feet feel the ground. This, my friend, is attunement. Your attention is turning inward. Your brain is beginning to notice the body, the breath, and the present moment. Take a slow breath in and pause at the top of the inhale and silently say, I am here. Now breathe out slowly and pause at the end of the exhale. And my friend, that pause matters. It gives the nervous system time to receive the message. I do not have to rush. I do not have to brace. Again, breathe in, pause. I am here. Breathe out, pause, and I release. With the longer exhale, the vagus nerve is gently invited into regulation. The body begins to shift out of alarm. The amygdala, the brain's threat detector, can begin to quiet. Again, just breathe in slowly and pause and breathe it out slowly and pause, silently saying, I can soften. Breathing in again. Pause. Breathe out. And pause. I can soften. Now we receive. As the breath steadies, the heart, brain, and nervous system begin to find a more coherent rhythm. Not perfect calm, not forced peace, just a little more steadiness. And breathe in, counting in 4, 3, 2, 1, pausing, 2, 3, and breathing out, 1, 2, 3, 4, pausing, 2, 3, and saying silently, I receive steadiness. Breathing in and pause and receive the steadiness as you breathe out. And pausing. Each time we repeat these words, we are given the brain a pathway to practice. This, my friend, is neuroplasticity, the brain learning a new way to return. And now we return. One more slow breath in and pause and breathing out slowly. And pause. And silently saying, I return, blessed and thankful. And continue just this breathing in and out as you flow. Do this at a steady rhythm, that which gives you life and breath and love. One of our members has a lovely car, and that car has a license plate that says, "What would Jesus do?" And you know those little fish emblems that you can put on the back? She has one of those as well, and some different little things that indicate that she is Christian. Unfortunately, that individual was in a hurry the other day, and I heard this story. So driving behind someone, and the person that was in the next car was getting a little bit upset because she was traveling way too close to that car ahead. And when they got to the yellow light, that car ahead of her didn't go through, actually stopped, which was a bit frustrating, just a wee bit. By the way, I don't have those things on my car, so I'm not talking about myself. Anyway, so she gets behind the car, and that car stops at the yellow light. Well, what does she do? She's honking her horn, and she's pounding on the dash and yelling, "Move on, move on." Suddenly, she said, I heard this little tap, tap, tap at my window, and it was a police officer with his gun pulled. And he said, "Lady, get out of the car with your hands up." So the lady kind of like, oh my gosh, right? This member gets out and gets in cuffs and everything and gets thrown into the car and taken downtown and getting booked and everything. And of course she was being booked by another woman. And so that police officer, who was male, went in to do the paperwork. And our member said, what's going on here? I just don't understand. Why am I even here? And the female police officer said, well, I'm not really sure myself, but he'll be sure to tell you very soon what went on. And so he had her license and her ownership papers and was checking on the computer and everything like that. And she was put into a jail cell. And then along came the police officer that arrested her and said, just opened up the door and said, "You're free to go." And she's like, "What was going on?" He said, "Well, listen now. I saw that fish on the back of your car indicating you're a Christian. I saw 'What would Jesus do?' on your license plate. I saw a little Sunday school sticker on the other side." He said, "What was I to think except that you had stolen that car?" Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. There was no member. Don't go looking for the car. Maybe we'll get... Is it up there, Walt? Have I done something wrong? Oh, well, it makes sense today. Yeah, there it is. Hold on a sec. Beep, 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 beep. There we go. And I don't want that. I just want to use the slideshow. There it is. Very good. Very good. Yeah, so this week is actually Mental Health Week. And let's see, why aren't we working now? Oh, technology, I love you. And last week we had been talking about planting seeds. And we were talking about that for the Food Grains Bank. But Jesus tells us that if we just have faith and believe that even a little mustard seed can grow and become so much more, that little mustard seed will grow and be a spot for the plants or for the birds and shade and different things. So we were talking about that, and Jesus tells us that. But that's not just last Sunday. That is every Sunday. Every Sunday, seeds of hope can be sown, can be received. And it might be in a word that I've said or in a prayer that's been written. It might be in the music that you just feel this little bit of hope and uplifting. Every Sunday is that opportunity to find just a little nugget of something that helps you to find that positivity and to get you through that next week. The other piece, of course, is it switches the heart, mind, and soul. And there are two things I like to talk about, God and neurology. how to change our minds so that we really stay in that positive frame of mind. See, it's very, very difficult for us to keep it all the time. But together, we can do so much more. You see, the seed starts as very small, as a little piece. That could be that hymn, it could be the prayer, something very small. And it remains hidden sometimes. You don't even know it until you start singing that hymn maybe later in the week, and you think, oh yeah, that's from Sunday. That's right, that was a beautiful hymn. Or you might be stopped at a light and going, oh, I better not honk because Reverend Sharon just said I could get arrested. Right? These little nuggets of information that we have. And it helps to enliven us, to uplift us, to give us a life that feels so energetic and real. But sometimes, and this happens to many folks, and it happens off and on occasion, is that some small little thing might just set them off, which may be that lady in the car with that anger. But sometimes it's over time that there are struggles and there are things that are difficult to handle. And that small little piece remains hidden. And on the outside, you can see people smiling. And you can see people having great joy. But on the inside, sometimes it's not exactly like that. And so that's why we talk about mental health, which God has given us, actually has given us a brain that is, negativity biased. And why would that be? Why would God want us to have that negativity? Well, everybody tells me that we weren't around at the time of the dinosaurs, but I'll tell you, crocodiles are real, right? And we still run. Big dogs are real, right? And so in that there's this negativity. And it's a fire alarm almost in the brain, the amygdala that says, and you can see the little seed, I don't know if you can, on the brain right there. That's about where the amygdala is. And that little piece, God has given us to help us feel safe. But sometimes, when we're under undue stress for an extended period of time, that little amygdala keeps firing even when we don't want it to. But we can change it by neuroplasticity. And that is the only way that I am able to stand here and talk to you today. If it wasn't about God's great plan of neuroplasticity, that we can rewire our brains. And how do we rewire our brains? Well, I'm going to show you how we're doing it every Sunday. Every Sunday, I'm bringing you through a flow, and so is Erwin, that we find pathways of peace. And that's what we want, is to develop pathways of peace, of joy, of hope, of love, not only just in here, but so when you go out there, not only do you feel great all for the rest of the week, hopefully, but you can share it with others. I just thought the slide was beautiful, but it's about regulating the nervous system, having a sense of belonging, because belonging, my friends, does affect us, and the hope. It's not just a feeling. Our mental health, who we are, is related to our entire body. Now, I was saying about how we flow through the liturgy and how we flow through the worship service. And there's something that I've just said that probably I could have left out. Not the whole sermon, goodness, but the word liturgy. You see, some of us understand what the word liturgy means. Some of us have no idea. I literally had to look it up again yesterday. I was like, liturgy, I know what it is, but I should... Right? Not everybody here knows what that word means. It's kind of like a doctor using medical terminology. Sometimes we have to change that so that others that have not been before, will understand what we're talking about. And so it's a liturgical response. It's flowing from front to back. And this is the flow that we do as we come to church each week. I think I shared with you that I presented this at E-Core. No one fell asleep then. That I was able to show them because they thought it was unique in what I was thinking as we flow through every Sunday. Every Sunday is this opportunity. We arrive. And what do we arrive with? I don't know about you, but my mind's racing and thinking of things, and I should go talk to you, and I should go back there, and I should do this and that. Our minds, we come into this service with lots of thoughts, and so we sit down and we start talking to our neighbors and sharing what our week was like. And then the awareness. We come in God's light. We light the Christ candle. And then we have a moment of stillness so that you're aware and that you're present. We then do some belonging, which is singing together, reading prayers together, and meaning and living. Meaning from that and then living it out in community. So the first one, arrival, as I say, as we just join together, we get a chance to catch up with our neighbors. But Erwin does a beautiful prelude, music for us to find ourselves, to become centered and present as we come together. And so that is our time of arrival that stops all that, well, I call it a wild Mustang mind. You know, somebody opened the gate and let all the horses out. I don't know about you, but I've experienced it. And so has Steve. Yeah, he's laughing. I understand, right? And then there's the Christ candle. Why do we even light it? Because Christ is already here. God is already here. We're not doing it for God. We're doing it for us. So that as that Christ candle is lit, we think, God is here. And I can be present to that. And I am not alone. God is here. We get that moment of stillness, that moment to just say, okay, I'm present, I'm here, my mind is quiet as it can be. And in that presence, I can listen and be present. And then we gather, right? As we gather as one together, we sing and we do prayers and we say words together that bring us in. And those words are important because they change the nervous system. If you came in anxious, my prayer is that by the end of it, you're going out overjoyed and that you're going out and feeling calmer and grounded. You see, as you're here, you're going to be seen. People see you. And people see you not for the outside, but truly who you are and what you encompass and what you are like and who you are to God. Because lighting that Christ candle reminds us that each and every person here has the light of God within. Now, you are loved, and that is so important that people have love and that we feel in that way. There are 3 neurochemicals. They're going, is this church? What is she talking about? This is church. This is what God does for us. There are 3 neurochemicals in our body. Oxytocin. When I feel loved, when you give me a hug as you go out, or that we shake hands, that engages oxytocin, which helps me, helps you, helps everyone, those hugs, to just feel that love and to feel grounded. The other one is dopamine. And dopamine, when it's secreted, it helps us to feel joy and happiness and ecstatic. And serotonin is another one that goes, but it helps us to feel just a little bit more grounded. So we can be happy, but still be grounded and present in what we're doing. Doesn't this sound amazing? Oh, yep, good. Anyways, and it also reveals that you are not, I'm hitting the wrong button, not alone. I had about 50 slides, so just be happy I'm down to about 12 now. Laughter. Oh my gosh. Laughter yoga. Does anybody remember when Doreen and Brenda and the rest come up and did the laughter yoga? Why did we do it? Again, neurochemicals. Endorphins are released when we laugh, and that gives us joy and it gives us hope and it helps us to feel so much better. And so laughter is a good thing. The other thing is that when you're smiling at me and when you're laughing like that, that makes me feel, and I respond with the same feeling, right? If y'all are sitting there like, that doesn't make me feel very good. But you may be having a bad day, and that's okay too. However, when we are able to laugh and movement, I was watching the kids because, they were clapping and we were moving, and I think they were laughing a little bit because I was a bit off the movements. But you got to notice that when the music comes on, I'm always swaying back and forth. It's not just that I like the music. There's another reason I do it. And there's another reason because I'm walking now. What is my body doing? Other than looking very foolish. What my body is doing is saying, oh, because she's walking around and her hands are moving and she's talking calmly, we're okay. She can remember the next line, hopefully. Right? It helps when we move to be, and the other piece is not just the movement for us within our own mental health and us for our body. But did anybody else notice that you started to move too? Yes, that's right. So, and actually, it's Audrey that will go over to Nate. If she's not sitting with him, she'll go over and put her arm around and they'll start doing this. And by the way, I start doing the same thing they are. See, these are things that bring us joy. And these are the reasons that God gives it to us, why we come together in worship and delight. I love this word. I don't know why. But just, it's a delight to be together, especially on a Sunday when we get ice cream. Yes, of course. And we will not ever forget the music that we share. Okay, so I think the message is the most important part. But it isn't. It's the music. When I see you out there with the music, and I don't like being alone up there, but when I see that and I hear the choir behind me, and I hear each of the voices, and I know exactly who's singing and the sounds, it brings me great joy. And we share the same breath, because sometimes you have to take a big old breath in to get the line out, right? Guess what, friends? We're sharing the same breath. We have the same air. There isn't any new air. We're all sharing it. And the day that you were born, you took a great big inhale. And you shared it with the doctors and the nurses and your parents and everybody that was in that room. And so the breath that we share is so important. And the movement, again, seems to be a theme with me moving. And do you know what that does? When you arrive and when we light the candle, and then we do a still point, we stop for a moment in stillness. And when we come together as a group and we do prayers and things like that, it helps us to come to the point where you're ready to listen to the Word of God. Your mind, actually, by this point, is primed to listen to it. And if I was a little brighter, Michaela, I would have known that when she came up. But it's that time. It's the ability to be focused, to be open, to receive. Each of those steps is so that when I get up here, now, you get to listen and to receive. But it's receiving the music, it's receiving the word, it's receiving the prayers, it's receiving. Each of those steps, my friends, brings you more open to receive the Word of God and the hope and the joy that these bring. Then we move on to generosity. And when I give at Christmas, I get lots of joy. Have you ever found that when you give to another person, that you get as much joy back? And that's why we give. It's not just for the church and all the things that go on. Of course it's part of that. But really, it's about the generosity and it's the sharing of love. It's not always as money. It's the gifts. It's the kids that came this morning and gave us the gift of that music, right? There are gifts in many different ways, but I tell you, those gifts actually help to develop compassion within you, to be compassionate to others that you go to see. And of course, it develops great hope. These are practices that we do during the week, and they're like, if I could have put everything that Pam puts in the calendar, we'd be here all day, really and truly. But the labyrinth, and why I put it up there is that in June, we're trying to plan an outing after church on the summer solstice to go and walk a labyrinth that is outside and big. And so I put that up there to remind you of that. But there are some that have some of my finger labyrinths. And part of that, in using that, or when you come to walk the labyrinth, what happens is that it helps to connect both sides of the brain. It helps to slow down and make new connections. Did you know that we can rewire that brain? Remember the neuroplasticity. It also, in connecting both sides of the brain, develops the prefrontal cortex. Now, all of these things you go, oh, well, that's really great, Sharon. But again, it's worship. It's part of what we do as a church, to help one another, to uplift one another, to help us with that. The still point is just a mini little service during the week, because I don't want you going all week without hearing the word again, or to breathe, or to be present, or to just feel for a moment at 12:10 that you can stop and take 3 breaths. And if you're doing that, every day at 12:10 I do that, just to remind myself to be present to you, to remind myself that I am here, that God is with me as well. And Qigong. It's a beautiful movement. It not only works on the body itself, but the spirit. And just in that movement, the mind starts to flow and is changed as it learns those new movements. My friends, where did all this come from? And how many more slides is the question? I promise you, just 2 more. Where did all this knowledge come from? Well, Jesus. He's the one that taught us this. He's the one that did an example of this for us every day. He didn't just go to the synagogue. He also did a lot of this out by the waters, out in the wilderness. Jesus is the one that taught us that prayer, pausing ourselves, asking God to be with us, saying positive things in prayer and to ourselves, that's what Jesus would do. Don't you think he was a little stressed? There was a lot going on. But he knew that he had to commune with God in prayer, in quiet, just like us coming today. And then he gathered the 12. We got more than 12. We got a whole church full of people. And that is what he showed us, that when you gather people together, when you are with your friends, that you are changed, that hope is there, that if you're not feeling happy, that others can help you to feel that way. And it's not always about being happy. Sometimes we grieve. Sometimes we have ultimate sadness. And in those moments, I don't want anybody to fix me. I just want you to be there. And that's what we do as people of God and as Christians. And joy. Where did he find his joy? I talked about it again and again during Lent. He went to go and see Lazarus, Mary, and Martha. See, those 3 people were kind of like his inside circle, his best friends. And sometimes there are things that I can tell to my best friends that I might just not share with everybody. And, well, my best friend would be Doug, so he hears a lot. Right? But we do. We have this little inside circle sometimes of friends that we can really just be ourselves. And I think that's why he went to Martha and Mary and Lazarus. As I conclude, my friends, peace can be had here within this hour. As a matter of fact, you are a phone-free hour right now. How does that feel? It's fantastic. Any minute now, every time I say that, usually a phone goes off. Right? This is the only hour of our week that we really feel that we can just shut it down, just for a moment, just for a little time. And then feeling that presence of God, and just pausing and stopping and saying, God, be with me. In trouble and in happiness and joy, God is with us always. To walk with us, to give us the courage to live every day to fulfillment, to live every day finding others that we can share that hope and joy with. That is what Jesus has taught us. And that is what Jesus has given us. As we come together in worship, who knew I was a neurosurgeon? Right? Grand. And listen, what do I end with the blessing? May Jesus walk beside you this day and forevermore. And know he's right there. Amen. Amen. You are held by love, met by love, and moved by love. That may be the beginning of peace. My friend, thank you for spending these few minutes with me today. If this still point, again, has brought you a moment of peace, steadiness, or encouragement, I invite you to share it with someone who may need that same reminder. Not just to share a video, but to share a blessing. Sometimes when we pass along something gentle, hopeful, or grounding, it deepens in us too. We become part of the circle of belonging. We help someone else pause, breathe, and remember that they are not alone. So share it with someone who may need this today. And remember often throughout your day to breathe, to reset, and to rise. Until next time, walk slowly, listen deeply, speak gently, and receive the world with an open heart and a smile. Many blessings.